Her best friend said it plainly years later. Everybody was watching it happen. Not one person. Everybody. This is Amy Winehouse. She was born Amy Jade Winehouse on September 14th, 1983, in Enfield, London, to a taxi driver father and a pharmacist mother. Music ran in the family long before she ever picked up an instrument. Her home was full of jazz records, her grandmother had once dated a well-known jazz musician, and singing wasn't treated as a special talent in that house, so much as just something people in the family did.
Her parents split when she was 9. She stayed with her mother. By most accounts, she was a difficult, sharp-tongued, fiercely independent kid, almost from the start. The kind of child teachers describe as a lot, which is often just another way of saying gifted and bored in equal measure. At 13, she got her first guitar and taught herself to play. At 14, she was expelled from theater school. She'd pierced her nose and gotten a tattoo, small acts of rebellion that read, in hindsight, like an early preview of someone who was never going to make herself smaller to fit anyone else's expectations.
She started performing jazz standards as a teenager, eventually joining the National Youth Jazz Orchestra. At 19, she signed a management deal and released her debut album, Frank, in 2003. It was jazz-inflected, sharp, funny, and confessional in a way that immediately set her apart from most of what was on the radio. Critics loved it. It earned her award nominations before most people her age had figured out what kind of artist they wanted to be. But Frank was just the warm-up. In 2006, she released Back to Black, and the album didn't just succeed, it reshaped what people expected from a British singer-songwriter for the rest of the decade. Soulful, direct, unapologetically personal, built on a sound that pulled from 1960s girl groups and old soul records, but somehow still felt entirely new. The lead single, Rehab, became inescapable. A song about refusing treatment that would end up sitting uncomfortably right next to the reality of her actual life in the years that followed. In February 2008, she became the first British female artist to win 5 Grammy Awards in a single night, including Best New Artist and Record of the Year. She couldn't even attend in person. Visa issues kept her in London, so her performance was beamed in by satellite. She won 5 of the biggest awards in music without ever setting foot in the room. Here's what made Amy different from a lot of artists who reached that level of success. The vulnerability in her music wasn't a persona. It was just her, mostly unfiltered, put to a melody. That honesty is exactly what made Back to Black connect with so many people. It's also exactly what made her private struggles impossible to separate from her public image. She'd already told everyone in her own songs that she was in trouble. Nobody had to guess. Her relationship with Blake Fielder Civil became one of the most tabloid-obsessed love stories in British pop culture. They married in 2007. By most accounts, their relationship intensified both of their struggles with drugs, a pattern that played out publicly in paparazzi photos and headlines for years. They divorced in 2009. Throughout this period, Amy was also privately dealing with bulimia, something her family has since spoken about openly, describing it as a serious contributor to her declining health that ran alongside her substance use, rather than separate from it. In June 2008, she was hospitalized with a serious lung condition. She checked herself out for one night to perform for Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday celebration, then went right back to the hospital. Even in crisis, the performances didn't stop. Here's the part of this story that's genuinely hard to sit with. This wasn't a private decline that the public found out about after the fact. It happened in full view. For years, paparazzi photographed her at her worst repeatedly, and those photos sold. Headlines treated her erratic performances and public struggles as entertainment, as much as they treated her music that way. Her best friend, Tyler James, would later put it about as directly as anyone could. Amy was a girl in her 20s suffering from addiction, and everybody was a part of it. Everybody was watching it. Her family and friends made attempts to intervene over the years. Rehab was suggested, sometimes attempted, more than once. The same word she'd turned into a defiant hit single years earlier. None of it held for long. Addiction rarely responds to good intentions alone, and by the time people around her were genuinely alarmed, the pattern had already been running for years. On July 23, 2011, Amy Winehouse was found dead at her home in Camden, North London. She was 27 years old. The cause of death was ruled accidental alcohol poisoning. Her blood alcohol level was reportedly more than 5 times the legal limit for driving. After a period of trying to stay sober, she had reportedly begun drinking again in the days before her death, and her body, weakened by years of substance use and bulimia, simply couldn't survive the amount in her system. She became, instantly and inevitably, another name added to the 27 Club. The same club Kurt Cobain belonged to, the same age, the same kind of shock rippling through people who'd watched her talent outpace almost everyone in her genre. Fans gathered outside her home within hours, leaving flowers, holding candlelit vigils that stretched on for days. Her father, Mitch, later said simply that Amy had been about one thing: love. Whatever complicated shape her life had taken, the people closest to her insisted that basic truth never changed. In 2015, a documentary called Amy used unreleased footage and interviews with people who actually knew her to tell a fuller version of her story, one that pushed back against the tabloid caricature she'd been reduced to for years. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary. For many viewers, it was the first time they saw her as a person instead of a punchline. Her final studio work, a duet album with Tony Bennett called Body and Soul, was released after her death and won a Grammy the following year. Even her posthumous work kept collecting the kind of recognition that, while she was alive and struggling, so much of the public seemed more interested in mocking than protecting. Here's the part of this story that isn't really about Amy Winehouse at all. We talk about addiction like it's a private failure, something that happens quietly, behind closed doors, hidden from view. Amy's story proves that's not always true. Sometimes the entire world watches someone struggle in real time, turns it into content, profits from the photographs, and still somehow acts shocked when the story ends the way everyone could see it was heading. Visibility isn't the same as care. Attention isn't the same as help. Amy Winehouse was one of the most watched people on the planet in her final years. And being watched didn't save her. If anything, it made the ending feel almost inevitable to everyone except, perhaps, the people who loved her and kept hoping otherwise. She left behind 2 albums that reshaped popular music, a voice that influenced a generation of singers who came after her, and a question that still doesn't have a comfortable answer. What do we actually owe someone who is falling apart in front of us, in public, for everyone to see? This was Undertone. One life. One truth. Even one the world had a front row seat to, and still couldn't stop. If you want more stories like this one, subscribe. There's more where this came from.